Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and we're going to be doing a presidential prediction for Tim Kaine versus President Trump. As you all know, Tim Kaine is currently the incumbent senator from the state of Virginia, and he's actually not as popular as a lot of people think. He's decently popular, but the presidential run kind of hurt his popularity. Or the vice presidential run kind of hurt his popularity a little bit, especially after the debate, which was held here in Virginia, where he kind of sounded. He did not sound up to the task of a vice presidential debate. Now, of course, things would be different. In a presidential race, he'd probably be a lot more prepared, etc., etc. But we'll go ahead and run this just because he does have the potential to win Democrat nomination in 2020. He's, I don't want to say super moderate, but he's really on the same scale as Clinton, really in the same political area as Clinton was in terms of what his policies would likely be if he were running for president. He'd probably adopt some things progressives want to try and keep them on board, but he would definitely fit in as the establishment candidate. And of course we have Donald Trump, who is pretty obvious. So let's get rid of the obvious states for both candidates. That would be the West Coast. I'm also going to get rid of New Mexico. New York for sure, Vermont for sure, and all of these states there we go, and District of Columbia. Let's not forget Hawaii. Alaska, of course, goes to Trump. Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska. I don't think Tim Kaine would be able to compete in that 2nd congressional district. I'll come back to Texas a little bit, but it's not because I believe Texas would go for Tim Kaine. It would be more than it was within 10% in 2016, so I think it's fair to actually look at it. Okay, so these are our states. First state I'm going to get rid of is Texas, and it would probably be at 10%, probably a little bit over, and that's why I put it at safe. So let's go on to some states. Well, that's what we're doing here, Benjamin. Anyway, Virginia, that one's going to go to Tim Kaine, I'd say by 7 to 10%. Tim Kaine kind of really helps in Virginia. That said, New York would be a lot closer than it was in 2016 just because there's not a New York Democrat running, and you get about a 7% home state advantage. So that's why I'm almost putting Virginia as safe. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it as safe. We'll say it's at 10% or thereabouts. Just because it's Tim Kaine. New York would be a lot closer, but it'd still be over 15% or something like that. So, yeah. Tim Kaine probably wouldn't help in North Carolina, though, nor Georgia. He probably couldn't win Arizona unless Trump really screwed up and the economy absolutely tanked. I'll come back to Nevada. Colorado would likely stay with the Democrats. Iowa would likely stay with the Republicans. Same with Ohio. New Hampshire probably would stay with the Democrats. Tim Kaine's moderate enough that he wouldn't push away the middle of the state. I don't really see. Well, actually, I could see how Tim Kaine could lose the state as a whole. Actually, when I looked at it, both districts were within 10%. So they weren't as solid as I thought they were. I think that would remain. Maybe Trump would do better in the second district, especially after delivering on some of his promises, like the tariffs, even if they are objectively not a good idea. I'm not a huge fan of tariffs. That shouldn't come as a surprise. I'm a libertarian. So maybe that would help him statewide if he were to pull off enough of a lead in that second congressional district, but I just don't see it. So what we're going to do is say that this remains with the Democrats, at least statewide. Florida likes to stay with incumbent presidents. Seriously, you have to go back to You have to go back to 1976. You have to go back to 1980 to find a year they didn't vote with the incumbent president. It said 1988 was weird because they didn't flip parties, but, from the incumbent party to the opposite party in a year with no incumbent president. But yeah, so Florida likes incumbent presidents, so I expect Trump to win there. It's also kind of his de facto home state, and the fact that he spends a lot of time at Mar-a-Lago. So that might help him a tiny bit. So now we go on. Trump needs 10 votes to win. Essentially, every state but Nevada gives it to him. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. Tim Kaine would probably win Nevada. I can see how Trump could win it, but I think Tim Kaine would hold that state for the Democrats. I don't see Tim Kaine as having any real Midwestern or Rust Belt credibility. He kind of seems a lot more like a Metro Beltway Democrat, not a Joe Biden-esque Democrat who can get out there and actually campaign in the Midwest and say, if you want to defend your home, get a shotgun, and I know I'm kind of making fun of him, but, he's not wrong. A shotgun is a good home defense weapon. Not as good as an AR, but it's a good home defense weapon. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and take Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Obviously, that gives Trump the election. Michigan is weird. If Trump really delivers with that infrastructure bill, and I believe he actually used the EPA to try and help alleviate the Flint crisis, if he's able to market that and actually, convince people that he did something about it, he might be able to hold the state. So I'm actually going to say that, and he ran a almost perfect strategy in 2016, targeting a large number of states and targeting what he thought he knew he needed to win those. So I think he might be the type of person who would try and do that. He would probably make some improvements with the Upper Peninsula. I'm not sure if he would be able to improve in the Detroit area, and he might lose some votes in Detroit. But I could see how he would hold it against Tim Kaine. So I'm actually going to go ahead and have him hold it. And again, against Tim Kaine, I think he might have a bit more credibility than he did against the Clinton ticket. He might perform a lot better, so I'm skeptical about Minnesota and whether or not to give it to him. but I think I'm going to be a little bit bold. This Minnesota is my bold prediction in this scenario. The state has been getting ever and ever and ever closer. And it was actually a lot, it was more Republican than the nation as a whole in 2016. It's not too much of a stretch to imagine that against a candidate like Tim Kaine, who could still be seen as an insider, has ties to the Clintons, and isn't as popular as a lot of people want to believe. And also definitely has some baggage from 2016, of course, being on the losing end. I could see how Trump could pull off Minnesota. But, like always, any state in the light pink or light blue could easily go the other direction. So Minnesota, which is, of course, my bold prediction in this scenario. Michigan is also kind of in that bold category. I'm a little more confident about Wisconsin and Pennsylvania remaining with Trump. Michigan, I'm less so confident. I'd consider it a true toss-up. Same with Minnesota, rather than just saying leans, but I'm calling an election, so I should probably at least have a reason for doing so. And the reason is Tim Kaine has maybe less Midwestern credibility than Hillary Clinton did. So I could easily see this going those two states going for in the case of Minnesota and remaining with in the case of Michigan. But that is about as... This is at the upper end of what I think Trump would be capable of. I'm not so sure he'd be able to pull off, say, Nevada, New Hampshire, Maine statewide. That said, Tim Kaine could win a state like North Carolina, but Trump would more than make up for that with gains in the upper Midwest and Rust Belt. So yeah, this is my prediction for if Tim Kaine were to be the nominee in 2020. I don't think he would be a very good choice for the Democrats. Next week, we're going to cover who I think the Democrats' best chance to win the presidential election would be. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time, and take it easy. Bye.